To be honest, when I posted that rent a girlfriend for Thanksgiving ad, I never actually thought anyone would bite. It was late, I just gotten off a brutal overtime shift and dragged myself back to my $1,200 a month room in a shared apartment in Logan Square. My phone immediately started vibrating like it was having a seizure, my mom. Ethan, honey, old man Henderson's son next door already has 2 kids. Your cousin Sarah's getting married next month, and you don't even have a girlfriend. If you come home alone for Thanksgiving again this year, Ethan Vance, don't even bother walking through that door. I collapsed onto the sofa, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, when inspiration, or desperation, struck. I opened up one of those shady Companion Connect forums I'd heard whispers about. My fingers clattered across the keyboard, seeking presentable girlfriend to accompany me home for Thanksgiving. Budget $500. Requirements: good actress, can handle intense family interrogations, doesn't mind a small-town Illinois environment. I regretted it almost as soon as I hit send. It screamed scammer bait. But, unbelievably, the next morning, my inbox had exploded. There were suggestive photos from professional escorts, matchmaking services pushing VIP packages, and even a self-proclaimed professional actress who sent a resume complete with a dramatic demo reel titled, Meeting the In-Laws. I was still reeling when a concise, private message popped up, send time and place. In-person meeting. The ID was a jumble of random characters, the avatar blank, a total burner account. But some strange impulse made me reply. You might not get why I'd rather blow cash on a fake girlfriend than face my family solo. Let's just say back in my hometown of Havenwood, being 28 and single is practically a terminal diagnosis. Last Thanksgiving is still seared into my memory. Morning of, our yard was packed with relatives. The whole clan of aunts and busybody neighbors surrounded me like I was the last single panda in captivity. Programmers make good money, right? How come you can't find a girlfriend? Is there, a problem downstairs? Your Aunt Carol knows a great urologist. The Miller girlfriend down the road just got divorced, has a kid, you interested? The worst was my mom's stunt. She printed out my Facebook profile QR code and plastered it on the bulletin board of the local diner captioned, Eligible bachelor, good tech job. Needs wife ASAP. That afternoon, my Facebook friend request blew up. The most cringeworthy was a voice message from some older woman. Young man, my daughter might be 10 years older than you, but she makes a killer green bean casserole. Right then, only one thought crossed my mind. No matter how terrifying this mystery woman was, could she really be worse than the Havenwood Matchmaking Brigade? I was freezing my butt off at the Clark/Lake L station, stamping my feet, checking my watch for the 18th time, 20 minutes past our agreed meeting time. Seriously? Even fake girlfriends are late these days? Where's the professionalism? I rubbed my hands together, already mentally drafting a scathing 1-star review for this professional rental. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Turnaround. Camel coat. I whipped my head around so fast, I nearly got whiplash. 10 feet away, a woman who looked like she'd stepped straight out of Vogue was lowering her phone, her gaze coolly sweeping over me. My brain short-circuited. ISA. Isabel Thorne, the CEO of Astratech, the youngest female titan in the tech world, a bona fide billionaire, standing right in front of me, her red lips pursed, a hint of scrutiny in her eyes. Ethan Vance, I presume? She glided closer, a cloud of expensive perfume wafting around her. Her voice was crisp. You're more unassuming than your photo. I took half a step back, instinctively wanting to bolt. You must have the wrong person. I'm just passing through. She grabbed my backpack strap with surprising strength. Programmer desperate to avoid Thanksgiving interrogation, 28, posted an ad offering $500 to rent a girlfriend for a trip home. She raised an eyebrow. Or is there another Ethan Vance conveniently loitering at this exact L stop? I screened 87 applicants, she said, flipping through a tablet in the back of a sleek black Escalade. 42 were obvious scammers. 28 immediately asked if we'd be sharing a room. She shot me a look. And of the remaining 17, you were the only one whose social media didn't have a whiff of misogyny. I shrank back into the plush leather. So this was data mining, precision targeting. She pulled up a PowerPoint. According to your social profile, no serious vices, no complicated romantic history, stable job. A pause. And most importantly, my mortifying Facebook post from last year flashed onto the screen. Mom's on the warpath again about me being single. Anyone got a good How to Fake a Girlfriend 101 tutorial. The accompanying image was a picture of my face badly photoshopped onto a movie poster next to Julia Roberts. Isabel Thorne's lip twitched. At least it proves genuine need. Outside the tinted windows, Chicago's lights blurred past. I looked at the woman beside me, a woman who probably specified the water temperature for her coffee, and had a sudden realization. In this absurd transaction, we were just two desperate souls backed into a corner by the institution of marriage. She needed to dodge a family-orchestrated business merger, and I needed to survive the small-town gossip gauntlet. One last question, I ventured. Why me? Isabel shut down her tablet. Her profile was sharply defined in the urban glow. Because only you, in your personal requirements, wrote, must be willing to help the girlfriend's parents fix their Wi-Fi. She turned to me, and for the first time, a genuine smile touched her lips. My father's study router has been on the fritz for 3 months. 5 minutes later, we were in a high-end coffee shop. I stared at the $9 latte on the menu, my insides clenching. That was 3 days' worth of my groceries. Isabel pulled a sleek file from her platinum designer bag and slid it across the table. Your file. University of Illinois, CS degree. Back-end developer at Polaris Systems. Gross annual salary around $80,000. Living in a cramped apartment in Logan Square. My eyes widened. Hold on. That's an invasion of privacy. Likewise, she sipped her coffee calmly and pushed another file towards me. My file. 30 years old. Stanford MBA. CEO of Astratech. Currently being set up on family-arranged date number 21. I stared at the string of zeros after her net worth and swallowed hard. Someone like you needs to rent a boyfriend? The line of guys chasing you could form a small army, right? Precisely. Her fingertip tapped the rim of her cup. Last week's prospect offered to buy me a private island. The one before that planned to name a yacht after me as a proposal. She leaned in suddenly, her eyelashes nearly brushing my cheek. I need a boyfriend so incredibly, devastatingly average he'll make my father give up all hope. I managed a dry laugh. You're kind of slumming it here. This is like a billionaire dating. Well, me, double your asking price, she said, holding up 2 fingers. First, you come home with me to handle my family's New Year's Eve gala. Then, I'll accompany you to your hometown for Thanksgiving. Deal, I blurted out, then immediately backpedaled. Wait, isn't the order wrong? My parents have already alerted the entire town about Thanksgiving. Isabel actually laughed, a real laugh like thawing ice. All right, Thanksgiving in Havenwood it is first. She tapped a few things on her phone. Train tickets for tomorrow. Remember to dress. She scanned my plaid shirt and sighed. You know what? I'll take you shopping. Walking out of the coffee shop, Isabel casually tossed me a car key. I fumbled to catch it, then looked down, a Porsche key fob. This car. My voice trembled. I don't know how to drive something this fancy. Isabel had already reached the curb. She glanced back. That's for you to Google the specs. She raised a hand, and the black Escalade glided to a stop. A driver hopped out and respectfully opened her door. I'll be in this. I just stood there. An hour later, somewhere on Michigan Avenue, Isabel was like a general conducting a military operation, pointing at clothes and barking orders at the sales assistant. This one, and that one. All of them. I looked at the price tags, and my knees went weak. This suit cost more than my rent for 2 months. She didn't even look up. The agreement includes a wardrobe upgrade. In front of the 3-way mirror, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, I barely recognized myself. Isabel stood by, arms crossed, nodding slightly. Passable, I muttered under my breath. You say that like you're approving a software build. She suddenly reached out and adjusted my collar. Her fingers brushed my throat, and I froze. Remember, from this moment on, she met my eyes, her gaze sharp. You're my boyfriend. We met 6 months ago at a tech conference. We're serious. I swallowed. So, what do I need to do? A slight curve touched her lips. Play your part. Don't blow our cover. A beat. And don't fall for me. I chuckled nervously. Don't worry, Ms. Thorne. I know my league. She nodded, satisfied, and turned towards the cashier. I stood there, my heart still hammering. Damn it. The show hadn't even started, and I think I was already getting into character. I dragged my suitcase along the Amtrak platform at Union Station, watching Isabel Thorne stride towards me, heels clicking, a coffee cup in hand. She wasn't in her power suit today. Instead, she wore a simple beige knit sweater, jeans, and her hair was casually pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like any other stylish city girl, if you ignored the Patek Philippe glinting on her wrist. Here, she thrust a coffee at me. Americano, no sugar. I glanced at the artisanal coffee shop logo on the cup. It probably cost half my daily food budget. Thanks. Don't get any ideas, she said, not looking up from her phone. I just need you awake. You have a script to memorize. A script? She pulled a folder from her designer tote and handed it to me. My family background, your heavily embellished resume. and the timeline of our relationship. She paused, adding, I've highlighted the key points. Don't mess them up. I opened the folder. The first page was a flawlessly photoshopped picture. Me and her at some generic tech conference, looking convincingly couple Y. This. I pointed at the photo. When did you even make this? Last night, she said dismissively. My assistant is good at these things. I swallowed and kept flipping. My fake resume was ludicrously inflated. Tech lead at Polaris Systems. Involvement in classified government projects, a salary well into the 6, maybe even 7 figures. Isn't this a bit much? I couldn't help saying, what if your dad actually checks? She finally looked up from her phone, a smirk playing on her lips. First, my father won't check because he genuinely doesn't believe I'd ever associate with someone ordinary. She held up 2 fingers. Second, even if he did, the CTO of Polaris Systems is a Stanford alum. He'll play along. My mouth fell open. This charade was way more elaborate than I'd anticipated. The train's arrival was announced, and the platform began to bustle. Isabel suddenly grabbed my arm. From now on, we're a couple. Her fingers tightened slightly. So hold my hand. My palm instantly started sweating. Are you? Sure. I stammered. I mean, nobody here knows us. She raised an eyebrow. Practice makes perfect. Or would you prefer to enact an awkward first handhold scene in front of my entire family? I had no comeback, so I stiffly extended my hand. Hers was smaller than I expected, cool to the touch, with delicate, well-defined knuckles. I held it carefully, terrified I might accidentally crush the billion-dollar CEO's fingers. Too rigid, she frowned. How do you normally hold a girlfriend's hand? I scratched my head, embarrassed. My last girlfriend was back in college. She usually made the first move. Isabel rolled her eyes, then suddenly laced her fingers through mine. Like this. Got it. My brain went offline. Her fingers were long and slender, nails perfectly manicured with a subtle nude polish. The new proximity meant I could smell that faint, intriguing perfume again, something like cedarwood mixed with a whisper of citrus, cool yet with an underlying sweetness. Your hand's really warm, she commented. Just, nervous heat, I guess, I mumbled, feeling the tips of my ears burn. She chuckled softly and said no more. The train doors hissed open, and we joined the flow of passengers. Once we found our seats, Isabel immediately opened her laptop and dove into emails, her fingers flying across the keyboard with a crisp, rhythmic tapping. I snuck a peek at her screen, a dizzying array of English text, charts, and financial figures. Just 2 more emails. She muttered to herself, then snapped the laptop shut. Done. I jumped. What's done? From this moment forward, she said, stowing the laptop in her bag, I am Isabel Thorne, Junior Marketing Coordinator. She glanced at my plaid shirt and sighed. And you're my boyfriend of 8 months. I looked down at my clothes. Dressed like this. I don't exactly look like someone who could land you, do I? She tilted her head, appraising me, then reached out and ruffled my hair. Definitely not. Then, she produced an eyeglass case from her bag. Put these on. I don't wear glasses. Non-prescription, she said, settling them firmly on my nose. Completes the tech nerd persona. More believable. I pulled out my phone to check my reflection. The black frames did make me look more stereotypically programmer, if you ignore my beet red face. Isabel nodded with satisfaction, then unclasped her expensive watch and tucked it away. This is a $20 Timex from Amazon, she said, pulling a new, cheap-looking watch from her bag and fastening it on. Then, she retrieved a simple canvas backpack from her luggage. Props in place. Watching her swift transformation, I had to ask, do you impersonate people often? First time, she said, adjusting the backpack straps. But business is like a battlefield. Sometimes, you need to conceal your true intentions. She winked. Like now, the train's intercom crackled, announcing our impending arrival. Isabel suddenly gripped my arm. Wait, shouldn't we be? She hesitated. More affectionate. The agreement specifies physical contact, she frowned. But we still look too separate. I swallowed hard. So, what do you suggest? She took a deep breath, then leaned in, linked her arm through mine, and rested her head lightly on my shoulder. Like this. My body went rigid as a board. Her hair, smelling faintly of expensive shampoo, brushed against my neck, sending a ticklish sensation down my spine. Relax, she whispered. You're as stiff as a 2x4. Sorry. I try to consciously untense my muscles. Just not used to this. Chew. She gave my arm a little squeeze. We're arriving. Remember, from now on, we're a couple deeply in love. The train glided to a stop. Watching her face instantly switch to a radiant, love-struck smile, I had a sinking feeling. This CEO's acting skills were probably far better than I'd ever imagined. As the Amtrak slowed to a halt in Havenwood, Isabel's grip on my hand tightened. What do your parents look like? My mom's got this permed curly hair and my dad. I didn't finish. I'd spotted two familiar figures on the platform, craning their necks. My mom was in her signature bright red puffer jacket, and my dad was holding his phone up like he was live streaming. Oh crap, I gulped. They've even prepared a welcome committee. Isabel's fingers squeezed mine. Are you sure you want to meet them like this? She glanced down at our interlocked hands. Letting go now would be even more suspicious, don't you think? I offered a weak smile. The train doors opened, and my mom, moving with an agility that defied her physique, rushed towards us. Ethan, oh, this girl is even prettier than her picture. My dad followed. Phone camera aimed squarely at our faces. Don't move, let dad get a TikTok. Isabel's body tensed for a split second, but she quickly plastered on a sweet smile. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Vance. I'm Isabel. She gave a slight, polite dip of her head and presented two elegantly wrapped gift boxes. Just a little something for you both. Back at the house, Mom couldn't wait to tear into the gifts. Oh my, this scarf is gorgeous. It's Burberry, Isabel said softly. I hope you like the pattern. Mom's hand froze midair. Burberry what now? Mom, it's a great knockoff from an outlet mall. I jumped in. Like $50. Meanwhile, Dad had unwrapped a bottle of what looked like very serious bourbon, his fingers trembling as he traced the label. Is this Pappy Van Winkle? I've seen this on TV. You have a good eye, mister. Vance, Isabel smiled. A friend brought it back from Kentucky. It's nothing too fancy. Dad fumbled for his reading glasses. Nothing fancy? Last year, Mayor Thompson's son. He got on a flash sale online. I practically shouted. Super cheap, came with free coasters. Isabel gave me a sharp, secret pinch and mouthed, $2,000 a bottle. After dinner, Mom pulled Isabel into the back bedroom with a conspiratorial whisper. 10 minutes later, they emerged, and Isabel had a delicate gold locket around her neck. Oh, Mrs. Vance, I can't, Isabel said, flustered, trying to unclasp it. It's too much. You absolutely will. Mom pressed her hand down. That was my grandmother's. It's for family. I choked on my iced tea. Mom, we've only been dating 6 months. Hush you. Mom glared at me. You don't lock down a wonderful girl like this. Someone else will snatch her up. Not to be outdone, Dad pulled out a thick envelope. Here you go, dear. Isabel tried to refuse, but when she finally took it, the thickness clearly startled her. This is $5,000, Dad announced proudly. For your future. My vision went a little blurry. Dad, where did you even get? It's your wedding fund. Dad slapped the table. Was going to wait till you were 30, but now that I've met her, why wait? Isabel looked helplessly at me, clutching the envelope and the locket. I sighed, rubbing my forehead. Just hold on to them for now. We'll talk later. Just as the awkwardness reached peak levels, the doorbell rang. My Aunt Carol burst in, her voice preceding her like a foghorn. Heard Ethan brought a girl home. Had to come see for myself. Her small, beady eyes scanned Isabel from head to toe like a security scanner. That sweater looks expensive, dear. Zara, end of season sale. Isabel smiled. Only $30. Aunt Carol, unconvinced, reached out to feel the fabric. This cashmere. Aunt Carol. I quickly interjected. Try some of these cherries Isabel brought. They're amazing. While Aunt Carol was momentarily distracted, Isabel leaned in close. Are all your relatives this enthusiastic? This is nothing. I grimaced. By tomorrow, the whole town will know you got a family heirloom and $5,000. Isabel's smile froze. I may need to reassess the risk profile of this engagement. Late that night, I tiptoed into the kitchen for water and found Isabel staring into the refrigerator. Hungry, I whispered. She pointed to a container. What's that? Oh, candy bacon bits. My mom's secret recipe. Before I could finish, the billionaire CEO's eyes lit up. Can I try some? 5 minutes later, we were huddled in a corner of the dark kitchen, sharing the sweet, crispy bacon by moonlight. Isabel's cheeks were full. This is better than any Michelin star dessert. Chill. I suddenly heard footsteps. Quick, hide. In a panic, I shoved her into the shadows behind a tall cupboard and stood in front. My dad appeared, squinting. What's going on in here? I was sleepwalking. I held my arms out stiffly like a zombie. Go back to bed, Dad. After the lights went out, Isabel's stifled laughter echoed in the darkness. Ethan, your acting is as bad as the opposing counsel in our last merger negotiation. I fumbled for her hand in the dark. Likewise, Ms. Thorne. Your grateful surprise face when you got that envelope was hardly Oscar-worthy. Her hand trembled slightly in mine, whether from suppressed laughter or something else. I couldn't tell. A sliver of moonlight cut through the curtains. I saw a tiny speck of sugar still clinging to the corner of her lip and, on impulse, reached out. Smack! She slapped my hand away. Don't push your luck, fake boyfriend. Dawn was barely breaking when the clanging and banging from the kitchen jolted me awake. I stumbled out of my slippers, and the scene that greeted me snapped me to full alert. Isabel, wearing my mom's floral apron, was wrestling with a smoking cast-iron skillet. Eggshells littered the counter. Chopped green onions were scattered unevenly, and a distinct smell of burning hung in the air. Are you cooking? I rubbed my eyes. She didn't look up, her voice laced with a rare note of panic. Frying eggs should be simple. The unidentified black objects in the pan sizzled in protest. I quickly stepped in and took the spatula. The heat's way too high. This old country stove isn't like your high-tech kitchen setup. Before I could finish, my dad's booming voice echoed from behind me. Well, look at this. Isabel, up so early making breakfast? Isabel flinched, and half a teaspoon of salt went straight into the pan. 10 minutes later, we were gathered around the old oak dining table. Isabel, these eggs. Dad stared at the charred lumps on his plate, then swallowed hard. They're very creatively done. Isabel's ears turned bright red. Mr. Vance, I'm actually crispy on the outside, tender on the inside. Mom speared the largest piece with her fork and crunched into it loudly. Way better than anything Ethan's father ever made. Dad, not to be outdone, stuffed a large bite into his mouth. Exactly. The first time I tried to cook, I nearly burned the house down. Watching my parents leap to Isabel's defense, I had a sudden thought. This imposter girlfriend had somehow already conquered the toughest bosses in my family. Izzy said she wants to come with us to the town market. Mom announced excitedly, plopping a knitted hat on Isabel's head. City girls haven't seen a real country market, have you? Half an hour later, standing at the entrance to the bustling, noisy market, Isabel looked like she was about to embark on a wilderness survival challenge. Stay close, I whispered in her ear. The pickpockets here target people who look like. I didn't finish. A large woman carrying a basket overflowing with eggs bumped into her. Isabel instinctively shot out a hand to block it. Whoosh, and with her other hand caught the basket midair as it tumbled. Not a single egg broke. The woman stared dumbfounded. Girl, those are some reflexes. Once the woman was out of earshot, I noticed Isabel's hand was trembling slightly. An investment bank on Wall Street isn't exactly Denny's, is it? Essentially, it's all customer service, she said, rubbing her wrist. Just with much more demanding clients. The afternoon get-together with my old high school buddies turned into a town-wide gossip fest. Way to go, Ethan, my old friend Dave clapped me on the back. Where'd you find a girlfriend this gorgeous? Before I could answer, Isabel naturally linked her arm through mine. We met at a tech conference. She leaned her head on my shoulder. He helped me fix my laptop. How long did that take to fix? Someone teased. Isabel winked. About 8 months, on and off. Amid the laughter, I took a large swig of beer, my ears burning. This woman could spin a tale more seamlessly than I could write code. Time for a lovebird shot, a few guys suddenly yelled, pushing 2 glasses of clear liquid towards us. It smelled suspiciously like old Mr. Henderson's infamous moonshine. I was about to intervene, but Isabel had already taken a glass. Just one. The sharp clink of glasses echoed. I watched her tilt her head back and down it in one go, the column of her throat moving, a single drop escaping the corner of her lips. Ahem. Cough. She choked, her eyes watering. This stuff is strong. Homemade, 100 proof, I said, quickly handing her some water. I told you not to. Who says I can't handle it? She wiped her mouth defiantly. Astra, our company parties get way crazier than this. On the way back, Isabel's steps were a little unsteady. As we passed the old community barn area, she suddenly stopped. Ethan, a tractor. In the moonlight, a big red tractor sat silently. You're not thinking. I want to ride it. Her eyes shone like she'd just spotted a new billion-dollar market opportunity. I've never ridden one. 5 minutes later, I was nervously helping a slightly tipsy CO climb onto the tractor. She excitedly patted the metal seat. Let's go. There's no key, Your Highness. I have my ways. She gave a mysterious smile and pulled a Swiss Army knife from her purse. My blood ran cold as I grabbed her hand. You wouldn't actually try to. What do you think I am? She rolled her eyes, then used the back of the knife to tap the fuel tank. Hear that echo? Still half a tank. And she pulled out her phone. Let me just Google how to hotwire John Deere. In the end, we just sat on the stationary tractor, looking up at the stars. The night breeze rustled through the cornfields, and strands of Isabel's hair, carrying a faint scent of alcohol and her expensive perfume, brushed against my face. Actually, her voice was as soft as a sigh. This is the first time I've ever ridden a tractor, lied so much, she said, gazing at the star-dusted sky. Growing up, I never even cheated on a test. I was about to reply when her phone screen lit up. The caller ID read, Father. In the moonlight, her expression instantly turned to ice. We need to go back. Later that night, I brought a glass of water to the guest room, but she wasn't there. I heard a faint noise from the attic. Tiptoeing up the narrow stairs, I found Isabel hunched over her laptop, the blue light of the screen illuminating her furrowed brow. I thought you were on vacation, I said, setting the water down. She quickly closed the laptop. Something urgent came up, but in that split second, I'd seen the screen. Astrotech's stock chart, a sea of glaring red. Your company. Ethan. She suddenly grabbed my hand, her palm ice cold. Tomorrow, you're coming with me to meet someone. Who? My father. Her nails unconsciously dug into my skin. The real test is about to begin. Moonlight streamed through the attic window, casting mottled shadows on her face. I suddenly realized this absurd charade might be far more complex and dangerous than I'd ever bargained for. The black Maybach glided down the highway, Isabel's fingers tapping an anxious rhythm on the supple leather armrest. So, I tugged at the unfamiliar, constricting tie. What's the deal with your dad, exactly? She lowered the window, letting the wind whip through her long hair. Arthur Thorne, founder of Thorne Industries. Textbook control freak, late stage. Believes his daughter is a prime asset to be leveraged. I stared at the rapidly receding landscape. And this Julian Lin guy. Julian Lin, 32, Harvard MBA, 3 publicly traded companies to his name. Her voice became flat, almost robotic. His favorite way to propose is with a hostile takeover. In the rearview mirror, I saw my own pale face. So my role today is to be a sufficiently inconvenient obstacle. She finally turned to look at me. Remember, no matter what happens, you stick to the story. We are deeply in love. The foyer of the Thorne family mansion was larger than my entire apartment. Mr. Thorne is in his study, the butler said, his face an impassive mask as he scanned me from head to toe. This, gentlemen, please wait here. Mr. Thorne will see Miss Isabel alone. Isabel immediately linked her arm through mine. He's my boyfriend. The moment the heavy mahogany study doors opened, the smell of expensive cigars and aged whiskey hit me like a wave. The man behind the massive desk looked up. His eyes, so like Isabel's, were as cold and unforgiving as a Siberian winter. Explain, he said, flicking ash from his cigar. You have 3 minutes. Dad, this is Ethan Vance. Isabel's voice was tight. We've been together for 8 months. Arthur Thorne's gaze raked over me like an X-ray. Education. University of Illinois, computer science. Annual income, around 80,000, pre-tax. Assets, real estate, renting in Logan Square. The heavy crystal ashtray hit the desk with a thud. Isabel quickly interjected. He's the lead on Polaris Systems' quantum encryption project. I nearly bit my tongue. This lie was escalating fast. Mr. Thorne narrowed his eyes. Professor Albright's team? Yes. I forced myself to meet his gaze. We just had a review with the Department of Defense last Wednesday's demonstration. Mr. Thorne cut in sharply. Which quantum topological structure did you present? Cold sweat instantly drenched my shirt. Just as I was bracing for total implosion, Isabel's phone rang. Dad, Julian Lin is at the gate. Her feigned panic was indistinguishable from the real thing. He's brought 20 bodyguards. When Julian Lin and his father were seated, I found myself placed at the far end of the long dining table. So far, I need binoculars to get a clear look at Julian. Isabel, you're looking well, Julian's father said with a smile, expertly carving his steak. I hear Astrotech has run into a little turbulence. Isabel's knife scraped harshly against her china plate. Nothing we can't handle, Mr. Lin. A $50 million cash flow shortfall. Stock's taken a nosedive twice now, Julian Lin interjected, suddenly raising his glass to me. Mr. Vance, how do you plan to assist your girlfriend? All eyes at the table swiveled to me like spotlights. I stared into my wine glass, a desperate idea, sparked by that glimpse of Isabel's troubled stock chart, forming in my mind. Actually, I put down my glass. Polaris Systems is currently in talks to acquire a 10% stake in Astrotech. Isabel's fork clattered to the floor. Oh, Arthur Thorne finally looked at me with something other than disdain. At what valuation? It will be a technology investment, I said, the words tumbling out as if by magic. Our proprietary quantum encryption algorithm in exchange for equity. Julie and Lynn burst out laughing. With that little project of yours that hasn't even secured a patent. Patent number US 2023. I rattled off a string of digits, a number I'd vaguely registered on one of Isabel's frantic late-night research documents. Dead silence. For the first time, Arthur Thorne's eyes held a flicker of something other than ice. Professor Albright is aware of this proposal? Of course, I said, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. He was my graduate advisor. After the excruciating dinner, I found Isabel smoking on the terrace. In the moonlight, her profile was like an ice sculpture. That quantum encryption story. You were looking at my laptop, she stated, exhaling a plume of smoke. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was back there? I loosened my tie. Just playing a part, right? Julie and Lynn will have his people digging into your background by morning. So, I took a step closer. How many hours do we have to get our story straight? She suddenly crushed out her cigarette. Why did you help me? The night wind caught her hair, and a stray strand snagged on my button. As we fumbled to untangle it, our fingers brushed. She looked up, and the moonlight caught the telltale redness in her eyes. My grandmother started Astrotech, she whispered, her voice almost lost to the wind. Before she died, she told me. The butler materialized. Mr. Thorne requests Mr. Vance's presence in the study. Arthur Thorne slid a contract across the polished desk. Professor Albright just called me. My knees nearly buckled. Game over. I was so busted. He said, Mr. Thorne actually chuckled. That you young man have finally shown some initiative. Excuse me. Polaris is looking for a partner for their quantum encryption project. He tapped the contract. But Albright also said you turned down a lead role on it last week. My throat went dry. That was because you had to accompany Isabel home to meet her family? Arthur Thorne looked at me with a newfound, almost unnerving, respect. Young people these days. The contract was pushed fully in front of me, a letter of intent for a collaboration between Astrotech and Polaris Systems. The signature line for Polaris was blank, but the intent was clear. Take Isabel back to your hometown tomorrow. Mr. Thorne said, rising. By our New Year's gala, I want to see this sign. The moment the door clicked shut, I collapsed into the leather armchair. My phone vibrated. A text from Isabel. My dad just froze all my credit cards. Followed by another. What the hell did you say to him? I stared out at the moon, slowly typing. I told him I was going to marry you. The cursor blinked. I deleted it, letter by letter, and replaced it with, I said, it'll be a pleasure doing business together. Isabel slammed her phone onto the coffee table, the screen still displaying the bank's account frozen notification. What exactly did you say to my father? She narrowed her eyes, looking like a very sleek, very angry cat. He actually agreed to let us continue. Dating? I huddled at the other end of the sofa, guiltily rubbing my nose. Well, we just chatted a bit about the future of quantum encryption. Ethan, when she used my full name like that, she was scarier than her father. My dad's study has security cameras. Do I need to pull the footage? I immediately threw my hands up in surrender. Okay, I might have implied that our relationship was very stable, and we weren't considering a breakup anytime soon. Isabel's expression hardened. And then your dad said, I plowed on, bracing myself. Since that's the case, maybe it's a good time to finalize the Astrotech Polaris partnership. She suddenly grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it at me. Do you have any idea what this means? It means we have to keep pretending to be a couple. It means, she gritted out, that for the New Year's gala dinner, the entire Lynn family will be there, expecting a show. For the next 3 days, Isabel put me through what I could only describe as CEO boyfriend boot camp. Forks are used from the outside in, she said, slapping my hand away as I reached for the lobster pick. Julie and Lynn will be scrutinizing every single detail. I miserably switched utensils. Why is eating so complicated for rich people? And this. She tossed me a well-worn copy of the Essentials of Corporate Etiquette. Memorized Chapter 3. My father might quiz you. Late one night, rubbing my aching eyes, I pushed open her temporary office door and found her asleep at the desk. Her laptop screen was still lit, displaying a document titled Astrotech Contingency Plan, Lynn Group Investment, heavily marked with red lines. I gently draped my jacket over her shoulders and caught a glimpse of the fine print at the bottom. If collaboration with Polaris Systems fails, proceed with accepting investment terms from Lynn Capital Group. The effective date was the day after the New Year's gala. The Lynn contingent that arrived for the gala was even larger than I'd feared. So this is Mr. Vance, Julie and Lynn's mother, Her hand, heavy with a diamond the size of a pigeon's egg, rested it on my shoulder. I hear you work at Polaris. In building security, is it? A ripple of snickers went through the room. Isabel started to bristle, but I gently pressed her hand. You're too kind, Mrs. Lynn, I said smoothly. I'm on the technical side. I pulled out my real, thankfully unremarkable Polaris Systems ID badge. See? Don't even have clearance for the executive washroom. Julian Lynn sauntered over, swirling a flute of champagne. I hear your quantum encryption project is under a rather strict NDA. I'm afraid. I smiled. But if you're personally interested, Mr. Lynn, I lowered my voice conspiratorially. At last week's Pentagon briefing, Professor Albright happened to mention your father's unfortunate data breach incident from a few years back. Julian's face went chalk white. Under the table, Isabel dug her nails into my thigh, mouthing, "Are you insane?" During a lull, as guests moved to the dining room, Isabel dragged me onto the balcony. What did you hear about the Lynn's old scandal? It was in the due diligence report on your laptop, I confessed. 3 whole pages on it. Her eyes were red with a mixture of fury and fear. Do you realize how reckless that was? If the Lynns pull their offer, then let Astrotech go bankrupt, I said suddenly. Isabel froze, looking as if she'd been struck by lightning. Why did your grandmother start this company? I gestured towards the drawing room, where her father was now laughing heartily with Julian Lynn's father. For it to become this? Is this really what she wanted? The cold night wind whipped her hair around her face. I saw tears glistening in her eyes. Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling, you're just a temporary actor in all this. But I genuinely think, Isabel. Arthur Thorne suddenly appeared at the balcony door. Time to cut the cake. Midnight. New Year's Eve. Arthur Thorne's study. Have you made your decision? He pushed a pen towards me. Sign this, and you're a significant shareholder in Astrotech. I stared at the astronomical figures on the contract. Mr. Thorne, actually, he's not any kind of project lead at all. Isabel burst through the door. Dad, this whole charade needs to end. The room plunged into silence. Arthur Thorne slowly rose to his feet. What are you saying? Ethan is an actor I hired, she said, her spine ramrod straight. I will solve the company's crisis myself, but I absolutely will not do it through an arranged marriage. My heart hammered against my ribs. I watched as she pulled a sheaf of papers from her clutch. This is a term sheet from a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. Their offer is 3 times better than the Lynn's. Arthur Thorne scanned the documents, then let out a cold laugh. Trading controlling interest for cash, your grandmother's legacy, is better than being a subsidiary of Lynn Capital. Isabel's voice choked. Grandma always said the most important thing about Astrotech was its innovative spirit. I heard myself say, better to go down fighting than live on your knees. Father and daughter both stared at me. I scratched my head. It was on your laptop screensaver. 2M. I was dragging my suitcase out of the Thorne mansion. Wait. Isabel ran out after me, her bare feet hitting the cold, snow-dusted driveway. Where are you going? The show's over, I said with a wry smile. If I stick around any longer, I'll blow my cover for real. She bit her lip, then suddenly asked, that Polaris project, can you actually help with it? I have a cousin who works in procurement for one of their suppliers. That's not what I mean. She kicked at a patch of snow. I mean. Suddenly, a barrage of fireworks erupted from a neighboring estate, lighting up her flushed face and the unmistakable blush on her ears. Are you asking if I want? Her voice was drowned out by a deafening crackle. What? I leaned closer. She suddenly grabbed my lapels. Are you asking if I want to make this real? You idiot. The fireworks exploded above us, a riot of color and light. And in their glow, I finally kissed the lips I'd been wanting to kiss for what felt like an eternity. 3 months later, at an Astrotech new product launch, a reporter called out, Ms. Thorne, rumor has it you and Polaris Systems, Mr. Vance are soon to be engaged. Isabel smiled into the cameras. 2 corrections. First, he was promoted to technical director last week. She turned her gaze to where I was standing in the wings, surreptitiously trying to finish a mini croissant. And second, it's not soon. We officially got together last year. As the flashbulbs went off, I hastily swallowed the last bite, thinking this was without a doubt the highest paying, most convoluted gig I'd ever taken. 3 months into the marriage, I still occasionally slipped up and called her Ms. Thorne at Astrotech. She cornered me by the fancy coffee machine. Director Vance, she said, her fingertip poking my chest. At home, it's Izzy or sweetheart. Here at the office, it's Isabel. If I hear Ms. Thorne from you one more time, I threw my hands up in surrender. Okay. But then you can't call me Director Vance either, deal? She tilted her head. Then what should I call you? How about hubby? Isabel's eyes narrowed. She tapped her Bluetooth earpiece. Memo to all departments. Director Vance will be working late tonight. Very late. Isabel insisted on learning to cook, her rationale being, I can't always have your mother thinking I don't know my way around a kitchen. Her first attempt, she mistook sugar for salt and produced a pan of stir-fried greens so sweet they were bitter. Her second attempt involved a grease fire. Her third attempt set off every smoke alarm in the condo. When I rushed into the kitchen, she was staring blankly at a blackened pot, a smudge of flour on her cheek. Honey, I asked cautiously, maybe we should just hire a chef? She looked up, her eyes blazing with a terrifying intensity. I've got it. It's all about controlling the heat. Now, a sign on our kitchen door reads, Isabel and the dog banned from kitchen, unless supervised by a professional firefighter. Of course, every time she sees it, she glares at me with those formidable thorn eyes, and I meekly take it down. At some sterile business gala, Julian Lynn, ever the charmer, loudly asked me, Director Vance, how exactly did a guy like you manage to land someone like Isabel Thorne? The surrounding chatter died. I swirl my champagne. Mr. Lynn, do you know why Astrotech ultimately chose to partner with Polaris Systems? He blinked, momentarily thrown. Because our technology is fundamentally superior, I smiled. The same principle applies to winning over my wife. Superior. Skill set. Later that night, back home, Isabel pinned me against the front door. Superior skill set. My mistake. Where was your mistake exactly? I shouldn't have been so publicly smug. She bit my earlobe playfully. No, it was a good performance. Keep it up. Thanksgiving, back in Havenwood. The entire town, it seemed, crammed into my parents' living room to gawk at Ethan's new billionaire missus. Aunt Carol pulled me into a corner, her voice a conspiratorial hiss. Heard your wife's company is worth like billions? I nodded. Then why's she always taking pictures with that old tractor? In the backyard, Isabel, clad in one of my mom's old quilted jackets, was indeed perched on my dad's ancient John Deere, snapping selfies. Her Instagram caption later read, New year, new ride. Hashtag country life, hashtag vintage cool. The comment section exploded with likes and fire emojis from a bizarre mix of Silicon Valley CEOs, venture capitalists, and my old high school buddies. On our first wedding anniversary, Isabel had a little too much champagne. She curled up against me on the sofa, whispering, You know, that Companion Connect account. I registered it myself. I was stunned. It wasn't your assistant. She shook her head, her cheeks adorably flushed. I scrolled through 87 of those awful posts. Yours was the only one that mentioned must be able to fix Wi-Fi. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating her triumphant, mischievous smile. I suddenly remembered that first, jarring meeting at the L station, her cool appraisal, and the words, You're more unassuming than your photo. It hit me then. From the very beginning, I was the one who'd been expertly, brilliantly played.